Why do 6 in 10 of your people feel unheard at work? Most plant leaders think promoting the best technician to supervisor is a reward for good work. And they hand them a badge and a schedule and a team, but nobody onboards them to the actual job, which is people. So the new leader defaults to command and control, probably a lot of what that person had seen. And 60% of your workforce ends up feeling their concerns don't matter. After 25 years in manufacturing and a decade coaching plant leaders, I have watched this play out on floors everywhere. You're not alone. So today, I'll show you what to build into a new leader's first 30 days instead. Now, if you listen to the last solo episode, you'll know a little bit where I'm going because we talked about it for team members. And it's related to the study that we did with the Center of Generational Kinetics, sponsored by Crossover Solutions, our partners. And when we did the survey, something that came out that surprised me a bit of how important that the people that filled out the survey, interested in working in manufacturing or transportation or logistics, felt about mentorship and when a new hire gets a mentor. So where this kind of ties in now is that when we interviewed the people, 60% felt undervalued because concerns weren't taken seriously. We know that's a leader behavior problem. It's not a worker problem. And command and control, like this whole thing, it's a choice, right? And how we want to lead. And hey, I went through it. I went through the ranks. I've seen it. I've did a bit of it myself where I had I got promoted and I probably needed some more help in leadership. Fortunately, I got some good training and I went out and I sought some help. So what if you had a formal mentor, right? Because in that episode, we talked about 46% of teammates wanted mentorship. And why is it different for leadership? Because it's a huge transition, going from an active team member in whatever role you're in to leadership. It's a different conversation. I think that's the key, is that it is conversations. And it's more about staying curious about the people that you're serving. Like, well, how am I serving them? How am I knocking out the roadblocks? How do I show my worth? Because maybe for 5, 10, 20 years, you showed your worth by doing, right? And what's that conflict now where you're basically doing your job with your hands behind your back? Or if you're a team lead, right? Like, how much do you feel that you just got to jump in versus stepping back and supporting the team, supporting that team member? But the feeling. You're in a new job. You want to make a good first impression. Hey, I'm excited. I want to make action happen here. We want to make sure no one gets hurt, some good quality, some good productivity. So we want to contribute right away. But if we don't have that person to kind of guide us, so many of you know my wife, Diana Soros, we're partners in manufacturing greatness. So she goes to a lot of plants. And one of her main roles is that she spends a lot of time on the floor and leaders will come up to them and say, hey, this person's late from break again. Like, I kind of mentioned it, but like, how do I have that conversation? And Diana will just kind of work with them and say, well, do they know what time to come back from break? So this is the expectation gap. And they very may well be, but it's just that other conversation. Because in the manufacturing greatness model, we have 3 gaps: the showing up gap, the expectation gap, and the accountability gap. So in there, it's leaders making expectations clear with the team members. And how do you have that conversation? But let's go back to the leader again. So I'm a new leader in my first week, and I see some of my team not doing what I expect. So now you're making a first impression. Sylvie DeGusto, she was on our podcast years ago and talked about in the first 7 seconds, you make such an impression. Well, your first day as a leader, like, oh boy, so-and-so got promoted. And some people might think it's great. Some people might be concerned, but the bottom line is you're in a new role. So the concept is get that leader a mentor. So we have the supervisor, right? Whoever their boss is. But I want you to think about this a little bit different, right? What about a peer? What about a manager? What about someone that isn't their direct report, like who they're reporting to, their leader? Things get busy, right? And then maybe there's an opportunity where you can have a different level of support, right? You've got that extra outlet saying, okay, I formally not only have a boss, because sometimes we feel like we don't want to bug our boss, but I've got a mentor and they're just there to help me with leadership questions. So if I've got someone that's not following standard work, or I just don't know how to approach the conversation, or that, they're not doing this inspection the way that it's supposed to be done. They think this way's better, but now we've got a quality risk because we prove this out through standard work. So it's getting those expectations tighter. And then we can hold people accountable. And when I talk about holding people accountable, we know how it works here in manufacturing greatness model. It's through with transparency and trust. So you've done a good job making sure those expectations are clear. Then the accountability conversation gets simpler. So if it's just, hey, what time are you supposed to be back from break? Okay, so you're a minute late today. So it's a whole team. We got to be back on the same time. What would it take tomorrow? What would be different? What do you need? How can I support? Just trying to figure out like what's getting in the way. Stay curious. The whole model is embedded in curiosity. What's driving this person to be late? Let's talk about that. Let's get curious and let's figure that out. And that doesn't mean that, it's okay and we just let that go, but it's understanding how to have the conversation to maintain the relationship, address the expectations, and then have that transparent accountability. And then it's like, hey, everybody knows what the expectation is. I got a new leader. They don't come and say, hey, you need to be back on break because I'm the new boss in town. And, this stuff's not going to happen. Like that's nonsense, right? It's just a calm conversation. It's just a one-on-one conversation. Drop the ego, stay curious, have that. But when you have someone you can walk over, right, and just kind of say, hey, this is how I'm thinking I'm going to approach this person. You might be emotional. That first week, your stress is higher, right? It's my first week in leadership. You might want to just jump and kind of start swinging the hammer a little bit, not even realize it. Or the opposite. Maybe you kind of disengage. It's kind of like, ooh, I don't want to say anything. But it's a great opportunity that first week, that first month, just like a new hire, treat your new leaders like a new team member, right? Make it an event for them. Give them a mentor. Have check-ins. Is it for manufacturing team leadership? We got to think of new leader onboarding like new team member onboarding. The class is in 3 months, but we need you to start leading that line tomorrow. We know you know the line, but they're leading people. They've already been leading the line. So now frontline leadership is just that transition. So you're not going to be able to get everybody trained right away. They're not going to be perfect in their first month, but you can definitely increase their confidence by having that mentor. And when you have more confidence, you will show up in a calmer way. So this is for our frontline leadership. It's going to help with our employee feedback, right? Because now you got a leader that's asking more questions right off the hop. So now it's like this leader, I might want to ask more questions about. Could be a quality question on this incoming part that looks a little bit off. Well, you know what? This leader's been asking me a lot of questions. I should probably just ask them a question and just talk about this, make sure. So all of a sudden it's like we're used to this ongoing deeper conversations and dialogue. So we can elevate the concerns before they get to our customer or cause a major problem, because it's the leader, that new leader, that's going to decide how much employee feedback we get. What's their showing up gap? That space between how we think we show up versus how other people perceive us. And by having a mentor, maybe even talk around and see how it's going that first week, man, you can just get in front of it. And that showing up gap will be so much better. And so will your new leader onboarding. So just pick that person. I'd love for you to try it and let me know, because I'm a big advocate of we don't need command and control. Showing up isn't a presence, right? It's just taking what you believe is serious and just closing that loop on expectations. And so I'm excited for you. Let me know if you try anything like that. Maybe a new leader right now. Maybe you are a new leader. Ask for a mentor. Maybe it's someone like a peer on there, and people take pride in that, right? That we can help teach others, and that's how we get better ourselves. And it's like, hey, now that I'm teaching that person this, I better make sure I'm doing that well. So it's just a compounding positive effect. So let's keep in touch. If you're not subscribed to the newsletter, manufacturinggreatness.com/subscribe. We give different type of content. And with all this research, you're going to get all the latest 2026 data on what's going on. We're going to slowly release that out in digestible bits between us and Crossover. We're going to have some fun with it, and we're going to help shape this industry and transform the manufacturing industry in North America, and how we show up and how we make expectations clear, and how we hold people accountable. We're going to do that through some deeper conversations. And leaving here today, other than subscribing and getting on our newsletter list, you just got to stay curious.